Welcome to a new week, Savages, and welcome to another episode of the Refined Savage Podcast. Quick business, and then we'll get the show on the road. Viking Coffee, the best coffee on the planet. Store-bought coffee is absolute nonsense and garbage, and if you live in a place like I do, where Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks are your big options, you know the value of an awesome cup of coffee. I am enjoying some right now. I believe this is Ethiopian blend because I'm all out of old man strength, waiting for my next shipment to come in. But anyhow, check out all of Evan's flavors at Viking Coffee, vikingcoffeeco.com. Use the code VikingCoffee10 at checkout. Get yourself some old man strength coffee. No matter what you buy, get a bag of that as well. And I'm sure you're going to love it. Let me know how much you love it, and so I can tell Evan. So get on that. All right, Cerberus. Cerberus has everything you need, no matter what kind of lifting you're doing, whether it's strongman or Highland Games or track and field or bodybuilding or powerlifting. They have every piece of equipment you could possibly need. Check them out first if you need a pair of wraps or straps or smelling salts, tacky, anything like that. They have it all. Cerberus. Real athletes working for real athletes. Give them a holler. Cerberus-strength.us. Use the code RefinedSavage10 at checkout. Speaking of awesome companies in the strength world, Serious Steel is it, man. I have loved these guys even before they were a sponsor of the show, and I am super psyched that they've been a sponsor for years now. Serious Steel, if you need any kind of gym equipment, like if you need stuff for your home gym, your commercial gym, your CrossFit box, whatever, give them a holler first. Don't go to some big giant conglomerate that doesn't give a crap about you. Check out a company that is built by and founded by athletes just like us. Check them out at SeriouSteel.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout. Stay Classy Meats. In this day and age when you have to wear a mask to go into most grocery stores, isn't it better to just have your food delivered direct to your home in a giant cooler box, just packed full of the best meat on the planet? I know it is. That's what you want to do. Go to stayclassymeats.com. Check them out. They have the best beef, the best bison, the best bacon, chicken even. You know, chicken is chicken, right? No, Stay Classy Meats is better. Small batch farms in the Bozeman, Montana area bring you the best meat on the planet. Check them out, stayclassymeats.com. Use the code SAVAGE at checkout. Warrior CBD, created by jiu-jitsu and MMA fighters. They have the best stuff. If you have aches and pains, bumps and bruises, their pain salves and roll-ons are fantastic. They have CBD oil for your pets, which I can attest to. It's a fantastic product. I use the drops at night. Great stuff. Check them out, warriorcbdofficial.com. Use the code WARRIOR20 off at checkout. Muscle Egg, our newest sponsor, but one of my new all-time favorites. If you need a high-quality, all-natural protein drink, Muscle Egg is the key. No garbage in it if you have like a whey sensitivity. And let me tell you, if you're fucking up a bathroom or letting out horrendous protein shake farts, you have a problem with whey protein, guys. That stuff shouldn't happen. Check out Muscle Egg. Muscle Egg is all natural. There's no prep time. You pull it out of the refrigerator, you dump it in a glass, it's ready to go. Egg whites and flavoring, it sounds crazy. It's the best stuff you'll ever have. Tastes just like chocolate milk. Their chocolate flavor does for sure. And their other flavors are awesome as well. Shoot them a message. Check them out on Instagram at muscleegg or shoot them a order at muscleegg.com and tell them that you heard it here on the podcast. The breath belt, the best piece of equipment I have found in the last decade. I shit you not, it is awesome. It is popping up all over the world. People in my feed on Instagram are wearing the breath belt. People I know, people I don't know, teams, pro athletes, everyone is using the breath belt for a multitude of different things. I don't even think Jesse, the owner, knew all the stuff that people were going to use the breath belt for. If you need anything as far as stabilization gear, if you need a good underbelt for strongman, if you need a belt it doesn't get in your way for like kettlebell swinging. If you need something to help with your psoas pain, for some rehab stuff for calisthenics, the breath belt is the key. Check it out, thebreathbelt.com. Use the code SAVAGE, all caps, SAVAGE20 at checkout. Finally today, the online programming. Guys, if you need a solid program, look, I'm not going to be that guy, okay? I'm not going to say this is the best program on earth. You guys know my feelings on that. There is no best program on earth. All programs will work as long as you stick with them and, within reason, of course. But we offer a super solid program, whether you are a thrower, if you're interested in kettlebell training, if you're stuck in your house, you want to do hard style training with just body weight exercises. That's personally what I'm doing right now. I'm just doing a lot of body weight shit, a few kettlebells and maces swung in for good measure. Our Primal Program is the program we are doing at the gym every single day. Our Foundations program, if you are coaching a high school team, or if you know someone who's coaching like a high school football team, volleyball team, swimming, basketball, whatever, and they need a solid program for their athletes, for $50 a month, you have that program. And it's going to be good for your team. It's going to be solid. And you can shoot me messages any time of the day or night, and I'll answer them for you if you need help. So check it out. Shoot me a message on Instagram at The Refined Savage, or shoot me an email at blinddoggym@gmail.com. I'll answer all your questions. We'll get you going. We also offer personalized programming and personalized lifting and throwing training, so give me a holler on that as well. All right, guys. Happy Jack Donovan Day. Jack Donovan, author of The Way of Men, and his new book, Fire in the Dark, one of my new favorite books. His books are all fantastic, but Fire in the Dark is amazing, and we talk about that. We talk about some issues. I always have fun with Jack, man. It's a good podcast. Usually when you hear Jack on these podcasts, he's getting the same questions over and over again. We tend to laugh and have a good time when he's on the podcast, and I think I have a great time with it when he's on. I hope he does too. And I hope you enjoy this podcast. We just had some fun. We shot the shit, and we talked about his new book. You can check out his new book at his website or on Amazon. Give him a holler. Get the new book. I promise you, you're going to love it. Without further ado, motherfuckers, here's Jack Donovan. Mr. Jack Donovan, I've got the new book right here, Fire in the Dark. I just finished it this morning. We talked about it earlier this year. I loved The Way of Men. I've loved your other books. This may be my favorite, though. It's fantastic.
Great. That means I'm getting better and not worse.
That's right. That's right. Maybe, I don't, what I want people to do is go out and buy this thing, but maybe give a little brief synopsis of what you were thinking when you wrote this and how it turned out.
Well, originally I started writing a book for heathens. It was basically just about, it was called Odin, Thor, and Frey. And I wanted to relate, everybody had seen me doing pictures of rituals and so forth out of my land. And I wanted to write a book, they wanted to know more about it. So I wanted to write a book related to that. But, through various things that were happening while I was, while that writing process was happening. And also as the research continued, it became a much bigger project, and it became something that I thought would relate to a lot more guys, because you start looking at all these myths and you realize that they're all connected, and they all, in the way that in The Way of Men, I talked about masculine virtues that are timeless and they're always and everywhere. A lot of these myths are kind of always and everywhere as well. I mean, you look at the different religions and you see the Sky Father over and over again. And well, why do we want that? Why do we keep creating that thing that obviously we need in some way? And however you want to frame that too. I don't have to frame it in an atheist creating God way. I can also create it. And it's like, it was just there and we want it. So, and obviously the warrior is an idealized part of ourselves. And it's really what I wrote about in The Way of Men. This warrior aspect of masculinity, we idealize that into a god over and over again throughout history. and it has a lot of the same qualities. It's always a thunder god, a god of the storm, and it's kind of the nightmare aspect of the sky. And so, and then there's also another part of life, I think, called I identify as the Lord of the Earth in this particular book. And when we're not looking upward and being philosophical and creating worlds and all that, and we're not when we're not fighting wars and being glorious, there's just a lot of work that needs to get done in life, and a lot of perpetuation of life, and just the enjoyment of things. And that's another huge part of life that I think a lot of men, when they talk about masculinity, they just forget that. They focus on the like we're warriors and we have to do that.
Yeah.
And that's right, but there's more to it than that. And so I took these basic three ideas, the Odin, Thor, and Frey, and realized that they were bigger picture. And so it became like the father, the striker, and the Lord of the Earth. And so it's really good. I think it relates to a lot more guys. And I have guys who are Christians and Mormon. My first earliest readers actually today just launched a podcast I did with Ryan Mickler, and he's a Mormon, and he liked the book, and my other Mormon buddy liked the book. So there's a lot. It's accessible for a lot more men than I think that it would have been originally.
And you say that from the start. I think, like you said, we all want to see ourselves as the striker, as the warrior, right. But I think a lot of the point of the book was that you should see yourself in all three of these characters. And you can see great men with the aspects of all three of the father, the striker, and the Lord. And I think that's important for us to see, is we're not just all the striker. We all have aspects, just like we talked about with the other book that we mentioned, the magician, the lover, that book, the king, magician,
warrior,
lover,
magician, lover. Yeah.
And we should see ourselves in all those characters.
Absolutely.
Yeah. First of all, I loved it. There's so many quotes in here, but when you were looking at this, I know you do a lot of rituals, and you had your space when you were in Portland.
Right.
Do you have? I mean, I know you've got on your fist Crom.
Yeah.
That was. I remember you talking about that. Where if I was going to have a god, it might as well be somebody cool. What are your thoughts on the Norse religion in general, as far as I tend to believe that maybe these were misunderstood beings of some kind, that they didn't just make these stories up out of nowhere. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think they were actually seeing some kind of entity that was there, or are these stories that are just telling us a fable or teaching us a lesson?
Well, it's an unknowable question.
Sure.
Like it's just like we can talk about it, but then we don't know. When you look at all these other religions, they were, like I said, they were seeing kind of the same things. And even if you get super atheist with it, then everybody's looking for aliens, right? So then it's, people are always looking for the reason for their existence, or the something that started the thing. There's a million programs for people who just like science, that are about ancient aliens and their astronaut theories, and they really seeded the earth, and so they have their own. What's the difference between aliens and gods? I'm not really sure.
That's where I'm getting at. Is I don't necessarily think that there's a difference. I mean, if you're living in Southern Africa or in India or in Scandinavia, and you see these beings, what's the difference if they're aliens or gods or something we can't even fathom?
Right. Yeah. And like I said, you can go with it from both ways. You can go with it like, we needed an ideal, like, the Voltaire quote, if God didn't exist, we'd have to create one.
Yeah.
You could go it that way, or you can go with it like something bigger was seen, and that's why it's always the same. My buddy Clinton was actually sending me research. I think I'm gonna have him write about it a little bit for a project I'm working on. But there are Native American thunder gods that go to war with serpents. Oh, who knew? Right. It's the same pattern over and over again. And so, whether it came from outer space or whether it came from the earth, or whether it came from our minds, I don't really know. And I don't think you have to know. Yeah. I mean, and I always, you find so many people who want to tell you exactly. I mean, like with what's going on in the world right now, they want to tell you they know what's going on. I'm like, you don't know what's going on. No one knows that. Like even the people running it probably don't know what's going on. Like
I think we give them too much credit for sure.
Yeah. So there are some things that are just unknowable, and that's where like religion and myth and all that comes in life. It adds the poetry to life, and if you have to take it literally, which I think that's where the confusion becomes, where you have to be like, well, in this book that Snorri Sturluson copied down after 300 years after anybody practiced their religion, that this is what they said, and if you get literal about that, that becomes weird and foolish. Like why would you take that literally? But rather than taking the idea that is being talked about, which is a universal idea, take that seriously.
And the idea is what the book is all about, is whether, and you mentioned this right from the beginning, that you don't have to believe in any of this. You can be a Christian, you can be an atheist, it's the idea of the Father, the striker, and the Lord that we all seem to have, as different societies, we've all seemed to have gathered together in almost the same way, whether it's a Hindu or the African gods and that. But these are important parts of human history and human psyche, and how we form societies together and make things work, because you need all these three things together. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was he's African American, and I showed him the book, and he said, a lot of this sounds a lot like the African gods. And I said that it's like the first thing you talked about in the beginning was that this is a cross-cultural phenomenon.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have had, that was a joke as I was working on this project. I was like, I really could use a PhD in comparative religion right about now, as I was doing it, because there's just so much. And I have no doubt that, there's yin and yang in China, and there's so many things that are always very similar. Like men are always sort of associated with the sky, women are always associated with the earth. These things are repeated over and over and over again. And there's variations and like kind of offshoots and whatever, but the overarching themes are very similar. And if I would have had like another 10 years to write this book, I felt like it was important to get the book out now and not spend 10 years writing it. But if I had another 10 years, I'm sure there could be, all these examples from all these different, the continents that I don't know anything about. Because then when you get into African tribal religions, I mean, there's not like there's just one. There's all kinds of different things, and same thing like all over Asia, and then it could take years to become even competent in really explaining the different versions of Buddhism. I mean, there's so many different versions of that and then people argue about what Buddhism is, but like which one are you talking about? It's kind of like arguing about Christianity, like the Lutherans or the Catholics or whatever, like there's so many versions that and they all have their own kind of flavor to them. So there's just so much there. So I mean, I stuck to mostly Indo-European stuff, although there's some Mesopotamian stuff and some other things in there, but there's a lot more,
one of the things, first of all, I think you should, if you haven't already read The Way of Men, you should definitely start with that, because there's some references back to it, and I think it is a very important book as far as required reading for men. You should definitely get that one and then read it before this one. But I would also look at reading the speech in the back. Is it Stay Solar? I can't remember the name, the title of it.
Yeah, Stay Solar. Yeah, and that's online. That's on my website.
Yeah, you should definitely read that as well, because it kind of gives you kind of a blueprint of what maybe these people were looking at, as far as looking up towards the sky god and looking to be better than they are now. And I think that's something maybe we should talk about, because I think what we're in now is a time where fear and vulnerability are becoming a virtue among people, and staying solar and looking to elevate yourself to the next level always. I just got off a podcast with Bert Soren from Sorenex.
Oh, cool.
We talked about when we were young Highland Games athletes, as soon as we came on the field as amateurs and realized that there were professionals, we wanted to be professionals. And I think maybe that's something that's lost right now, that looking to achieve a higher and higher level as we go.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I think the biggest crisis is that I talk about in the book. Obviously, I'm talking about gods and archetypes and all this other things, but it's put into a big frame of the idea that we are, society collectively is breaking apart the idea of gods and heroes and the idea of really a hierarchy of values.
Yes.
And, I talk in a little bit in the book about how Nietzsche kind of foresaw that, but we're way down the road now. And you're seeing all these things that, no one wants to say this thing is better than the other thing. Whereas that's the way the men are wired. Yeah, we see, you see the Highland Game guys like, I want to be the better guy. Like I want to be in the better category. But if you get rid of the idea that there are better categories, then men are really lost and they really have nothing to shoot for. And then so you get in that mentality that everybody is preaching, like, just love yourself the way you are. And, no one ever would have done anything cool in the history of the world if they just loved themselves the way they were. Like, whatever garbagey thing I want to do today, I'll just do that instead. We all have the things we want to do and the things we won't let ourselves do because we want to do better things.
Yeah.
And that's how human excellence happens. And if you don't have that in society, that hierarchy of values, then we don't have anything to shoot for. And we just become, there's a new stimuli today, react to that. We become slaves, really.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I try to preach this to my son that, you always are striving to do something better and you're training and you're working really hard. And we live in this little tiny town, and, I kind of gave him the story the other day about the crabs in the barrel, where every time one of them tries to succeed, the other one will pull him back down. Yes. And I'm hoping that reverberates with him. And I think, man, I just think it's a really important lesson for everyone, but for men in specific to live that solar lifestyle and live that constantly trying to better yourself and get to a point where maybe you're not satisfied, but at least you've accomplished some things, and then maybe we can talk online about nonsense.
Yeah. Hopefully you're always getting to a point of it still not being good enough.
Right.
Because then that's, otherwise you just stop growing. It is cool to get to a place. Like the way of man is a feather in my cap. I did something cool in my life that I'm proud of. And, if I die tomorrow, I still did that. So that's cool. But at the same time, if you're not saying, well, I can do better or do something else better, then you're not growing at all. And so, you need to keep focusing on what am I messing up? What can I do better at? When I look back at what I was doing, in that period of my life and, what I'm doing now.
Reading your afterward is weren't you like delivering stuff? Like, weren't you like a truck driver delivery guy during that?
Yeah. I had given up on, and not that like giving up on life, but like I just
right.
was got to the point where I was, I pretty much figured I'd never buy a house. And, I had basically just had, I think there was probably 10 years where I basically made $30,000 every year. And that was like, I was good with that, that was comfortable. I could make a living. That was fine. But I really didn't have any sense that I could get beyond that. And when I wrote The Way of Man, I was, my favorite job ever was delivering exercise equipment. And, after that, I wanted to drive a truck, and that, the company, I have my own crew, but there wasn't enough room in the company because it was kind of downsizing at that time. So I ended up going out on my own and delivering produce. So I could be on my own and have my own truck and run around and do that. And then I delivered gourmet Italian food, for basically like the ingredients for it for a while, like spices and stuff. And so I did that, and that was what I was doing while I was writing The Way of Men. And so, those kind of jobs. So I never really thought that I would go beyond that. And
but
now,
those jobs,
now I'm sitting in an office that is my own office,
right.
It's a separate place that I rent to go and do this,
but all those, you know, all those jobs are important. Like you talked about in the book, those all need to be done. And it's just as important to be the farmer tilling his fields and the grocer or the merchant selling his products, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and that's great. That has to happen. And I think there are a lot of people who live in a fantasy world where that doesn't need to happen. Like, you know, when everyone's supposed to stay home, like who's going to drive the trucks? Like someone needs to deliver that food. That's a job that needs to happen. And, you know, I feel grateful that I got to have all those jobs before this one. Because I feel like I have a very good grounding in a lot of elements of reality. Not like I've done like amazing, cool things all around the world, but I worked a corporate job. I know what that gig is. You know, I did, you know, I've been a shipping receiving guy, which is why I can run my own business today. I've already been shipping receiving guy before. You know, and realizing that there's this whole other world that people don't understand. Things just arrive at their doorstep. And, you know, they don't really understand that, okay, somebody has to get up at 5:30 in the morning and go load that truck and do all the things to make that happen.
Yeah.
And so, I think having a wide variety of experience like that, I think helped me maybe see the world in a more full way than someone who's only ever done the one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people all the time, you know, people, you know, will get a hold of me. They want to do a podcast. They want to open a gym or whatever. And man, I did 19 years of a job I hated and then did this shit on the side, trying to get to the point where I could make it my full-time career. So, I mean, it's not like boom magic. Here you go. You get to do, you know, you get to do podcasts with Jack Donovan on a Tuesday afternoon. There's a lot of work to be done, but there's value in that work.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like some people think I'm like a man of leisure or something. I'm like, I worked for 20 years. Like, you know, like, so, you know, it's now I get to do kind of what I want, and that's its own weird challenge. But, you know, it's good to go through all that. And I think it does make you grounded in the world. And I think maybe, you know, all these politicians who have only ever been politicians. And I mean, they're missing some pieces of the puzzle.
And we, just like you talked about, you know, the people who, there needs to be people who drive trucks. That's another thing with, you know, with the warrior class too, is we have people who think that doesn't need to exist, that everyone is just going to be friendly and just be nice to you and there won't be any problems. You know, we need the Jocko Willings of the world out there on walls with guns.
Yeah. And the police, I mean, like, you know, like there are riots in a certain city right now, like that they're going crazy, and they're like, defund the police. I'm like, well, do you know what happens when that happens? I guess. I mean, I was in Portland for a while, and I was just having lunch with another refugee from Portland yesterday, a buddy of mine who moved to Texas, and he just came through Utah. We were sitting down having lunch, and he was saying, like, you know, it's not getting reported, but there are so many more shootings and so much more crime down there right now, because it's just, you know, and it used to be like the safest, like,
I used to love Portland.
I mean, you could walk around in Portland and be like, I was like, there are no sketchy neighborhoods in Portland, you know, like the whole time I lived there. I mean, like, because I've been to Baltimore and I've been to some places where there are definitely some sketchy neighborhoods.
Yeah, right.
And there was nowhere in Portland where you ever had to be worried, or even you could really just be a goofball and not even have any spatial, you know, situational awareness at all. You know, but now, I mean, apparently, you know, that's no longer the case. And so, you know, that's kind of sad, you know, but it is, they asked for it. So
that's right. They put all these people in power and they asked for it, and now they're getting it. And you know, I think and you've talked about, I've heard you talk about this before, where, you know, this fantasy that some men have of an apocalypse and how well you're going to do during that and everything, and it kind of goes out the window. I think majority of thinking people don't want chaos and disorder. The people who seem to want that are the ones that are least likely to do well if that happens. If society breaks down and shit goes in the tank, it's the guys that have been training and working and suffering to get better are the ones that are going to do a lot better in that situation.
Yeah. And there's just so much violence that is going to take place if that happens, that like, it's like, you know, I've had friends that are like, you know, thinking that they're going to go hunt. I'm like people, You're not gonna like you're not. This is not like it's pastoral. We're gonna immediately be back to like 12th century, and you're gonna go hunt deer for your family, unless you like live in rural West Virginia or something like that. But it's in most places there's gonna be a lot of violence for a long time, and it's I don't want that. I don't want that. But at the same time, like if that's what has to happen, it has to happen. But whatever.
Be prepared for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things that you wrote. And I get off on tangents here, but speaking of being prepared for things was, and I pulled a quote from it and put it on my Instagram page this week, and it was, all training is sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And where did that come from? Like, what got you thinking that direction? I know it's been a long time since you wrote that one, but it's one of my favorites, and I've sent it to so many people over the years.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, obviously, it's related. The essay itself is obviously related to Odin and hanging on the tree for 9 nights. And then I put out a rash guard and a T-shirt and everything about that. All training is sacrifice. It's just, I guess at the time, I mean, that was an ongoing theme because we were talking about sacrifice and we were talking about Odin and we're talking about training. So that they just start to overlap. But it is true. You're sacrificing your present self for a future self, and I mean, those of us who like training, it's almost not really that much of a sacrifice. Like I'd rather be at the gym than like now it's more like all writing is sacrifice because, writing is hard and I have to sit at my desk and figure stuff out for hours. And sometimes, it doesn't come together. Yeah. And, it's like, I'd much rather go to the gym, but this, like I would say like right now it's grappling for me because I like going to the gym and that's just fun and easy. And I'll just keep going. It's all maintenance really at this point. Although I do go to Mark Twite's gym nonprofit on Fridays, and that's always him coming up with horrible things for us to do, and you just have to suffer through it. So that is like legitimate suffering, but it's still fun, and I'm always glad that I went. And but right now I would say like it's going to grappling more often.
Well, that was going to be my next thing to talk to you about. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, it's like I've been in kind of a maintenance phase with that because I was busy with the book and other stuff. But I have my friends coming over here every week, and if they're putting in 3 days and I'm putting in like one, when we roll together, it's like I don't want them to get too far ahead of me. Yeah. So there's some. I'm going to have to put in some hours this summer to catch up in just. Technique wise, I'm fortunate in being freakishly weird strong for my size and whatever, so I can kind of coast on that for a long time. On defensive stuff and just being strong is something I can get away with a lot, but eventually I'm gonna have to have some kind of like game off my back. I really have nothing. Like my guard is garbage, so I'll have to figure out get some more technique in there. And so like, that's something I'm going to have to sacrifice some time and, and some, like hours and hours of whatever to get a few more things to click.
Yeah. I know I spent, my guard was absolute garbage. And I think starting off when you're already strong, that's a given. You don't want to be on your back. You don't want to, but, I just forced myself.
Yeah.
Just to always go from that position. And I was rolling with a guy today, Mark Burrows. They call him the Chicken Hawk. He's a X 1,000-pound squatter. And this guy passes guards like no problem, and I start on my back and just try to keep him off me the whole time, and that's all it is just putting in time and putting in that effort and getting better day to day.
Yeah.
Are you, you said that he's putting you through these workouts that are hellacious, and is it less bodybuilding now and more functional movements or what?
Well, I mean, I have to do bodybuilding for me because I want to look a certain way.
Right.
I'm probably done trying to lift super heavy. Not that I don't think that I couldn't come up with another PR if I did all the things that you have to do to get there. I just don't really want to do those things. And also it's kind of hard to mix with jiu-jitsu and all that. But no, I mean, the stuff on Fridays, it would be cool to do that, nothing but that kind of stuff for a few months and see what that happens. Because, like Mark, whatever, trains Superman. And I'm like, like, I'm not going to miss the class with the guy who trains Superman. Are you kidding me? So yeah, I go there and do that. And that is a lot more. I mean, it's different every week. So you don't know what you're really walking into, but you might end up doing, squats followed by jump squats, followed by like, some weird overhead movement and, like mixed in with cardio and all kinds of stuff. So it's just going to be probably like 40 minutes to an hour of a long list of weird combinations of things. Yeah, is basically what it is.
Yeah, it's weird. Bert and I were just talking about that again. Just we're in our 40s now, and maybe I could pull a heavy deadlift, but what's it going to take out of me, and how long is it going to take to recover, and what can I do because I'm sore and beat up from doing that? And last time I pulled a heavy deadlift, I thought I had COVID. I had a headache for 3 days. It was all exhausted. Yeah. So I get it totally.
It's diminishing returns. I think, it's like, if you're going to be, like this year, I was like, I ate a lot of pizza. I was moving, I ate a lot of pizza. I was moving and everything. And so I'm like, well, I'm a little chunky, so maybe I'll do some powerlifting for a minute. And, I was like, I'll get my deadlift up to 500 again. And, like it was always kind of hangs out at 400. I've gotten to 535, but, to get from 405 to 500, that takes about a month. Like for me, like to get that up there a month and a half. And, but for me to get like 600 would be several months, maybe a few cycles of training to get there. And like, what am I not doing? What am I going to look like? Am I just going to get fat to do that? Like, is it, why, there's really no payoff for that. It's like, I'm already very strong. So as long as I'm doing things that keep me reasonably strong, then that's kind of where I need to be to do other things. Yeah. It's more fun, I think, at this point to be, and I always say I'm a gently used 46.
Yeah.
Like I didn't beat myself up. I was never in the military. I didn't beat myself up when I was in my 20s or whatever. So it's not like I have a whole bunch of nagging injuries and all kinds of stuff like a lot of guys really do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could still do a lot of stuff, but for me, it's just the more athletic stuff is more fun now.
Yeah.
And, I love the environment of a powerlifting gym and that kind of vibe, but I have no desire to like, get on a platform or anything.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I feel the exact same way. So, but jiu-jitsu's going pretty good. You're digging it still. And the last time we talked, you just started.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I'm a blue belt. So I'm about like, over 2 years in, I guess.
Maybe I guess it was wrong. Maybe you had been, because I think we just talked in like October or September.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So I got my blue belt like last summer, and the place I'm training now, it's like I'm actually training at Jeremy Horn's gym. And so, for a while I was just doing his gi classes, which he doesn't do gi, because I was like losing weight still, and I was like, I don't want to deal with actual MMA fighters right now. I need a man. But now, like since I lost weight again and I'm back to what I roll around at normally, I started taking his class because I'm like, if I'm training at his gym, I want to be trained by Jeremy Horn.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so I've just started kind of doing the no gi classes, and that's a place where they don't even care about belts. That's not even a real thing there, So, when you're doing the gi stuff and you're that's, especially when you're white belt, that's a big focus is like, how do I get to level 2, and now, like, because that's not even a thing there, it's like, well, if I care about that, I'll have to go somewhere else. But right now I'll just get better at grappling so I can, be better when I roll with my friends.
It's
interesting. And also just because I think that men need to have that aspect in their lives all the time.
Yes.
When you have some kind of combat sport, I think is really, really, really healthy for men on a regular basis. Cause you have to constantly deal with that. Like, oh, that dude just crushed me. And that's really healthy. It's really healthy to have that to have a little bit of fear, but like, oh shit, how am I going to get out of this? To have that on a regular basis, I think that is really, really healthy for men.
I agree 100%. I worked as a corrections officer for 19 years, and I might have told you this before, but when I'd been in hundreds of altercations with inmates, always came out fine, and didn't realize I didn't know how to fight until the first day I walked into that jiu-jitsu class and just got ragdolled everywhere by guys, 30 pounds less than me. But and then for like 3 months, you're paranoid. Like, holy shit, I don't know how to fight. I could get killed. I'm so vulnerable, you know?
Yeah,
but then after a while, you keep putting yourself in that position where guys are pushing you down and strangling you and cranking on arms and squishing you. And you start to win, and then all of a sudden that confidence just goes through the roof. And I think it goes back to the whole, staying solar thing, that I think that men, we need to be in some kind of combat sport, like you said, where whether you're wrestling or boxing or doing something, it's you need to be able to protect the perimeter, protect your family, keep everybody safe. It's important. There's not always going to be the cop there. There's not always going to be a bouncer there to save you. You've got work to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have that. I mean, I will say, kind of like you were saying, the more you do combat sports, the more you're like, I don't know. I mean, 6 months into boxing, I would have told you I would have felt pretty good about stuff. And, 3 years into boxing, I was like, anything can happen. After being knocked out twice, and you're like, by people you've totally underestimated, like you'd be like, oh well, I don't know, it could go any way, and same thing with jiu-jitsu. I mean, you walk in and you think I had a guy a few weeks ago. He just seemed kind of sleepy and kind of overweight.
Yeah.
In his sweatpants and whatever. He just crushed me like right away, like without any problem. And like, it was just okay. I thought that was lazy, sleepy guy that was going to be easy, And
that guy's in every gym too.
Yeah.
Everybody has that guy in their gym.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just don't know. And so it's really, but it is good to, like I said, at least you have those experiences where learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know if I'm in the middle getting knocked out, I'm still going to roll on the floor and get back up. Even though I shouldn't, it doesn't make any sense. I will still keep getting back up. Yeah. And that's kind of cool to know. I don't know how well that it would fix anything in real life, but like, I'll still keep getting up until I'm actually like out.
Yeah.
And if you've been, like in jiu-jitsu or like any kind of grappling, and you're constantly in the situations where you have to talk yourself through, like, I'm not going to tap to this, like where it's like, man, they got it. But it's really, really uncomfortable and bad, and you can almost not breathe, and it's, but you get used to that. And it's really good. And I think that it makes men emotionally more stable, because they're not just in this weird headspace where they're just reacting to stuff online. And that's where most men are 90% of the time. They're on their phones reacting to like little jabs and little stimuli and all these kind of things. And like, if you've, had a guy choke you today, then maybe that'll get turned down a little bit. It's there are other things that are worse, and you kind of see the weakness of that as well, of these little kind of snipey things. So I think that if a lot more men did that kind of stuff, they'd be a little bit more emotionally stable and not so easily spun up by other stuff. I mean, although I mean, I'm still not at the level where I ignore everything online.
Yeah.
I'll get a crappy comment every once in a while. I was like, you want
to just go back at him.
Yeah, I mean, I was totally juvenile. I went back on some dude who left me a shitty comment that wasn't fair the other day. I went back at his profile and did shitty comments on his. And I almost never do that. It was very not solar. But like, for whatever reason, that was the day. I was like,
that was the day.
Yeah.
I've noticed though that, and you can see it through your writings, through from the Way of Men all the way up. You have changed as a human being.
Oh yeah.
Your mindset is completely different. I mean, and I don't know you. We don't hang out and go out to dinner, but I can just tell through your writings that you've, I don't know, matured is the right word, because I get the journey. Because when I was in my 30s, I was a completely different human. I was an angry guy. I was always looking for a fight, to being more mellow and more introspective now, and being able to see the forest for the trees, I think. And it seems like you've gone on a similar journey just through your writing. Like, you can see that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have people who like look at old pictures of me, or like, like see me speak years ago or read something I used to write, and they're like, they take it as that being, like who I am now is false or something. And I'm like, no, I was that guy, and now I'm this guy. And you have to, like if I haven't learned anything, like what have I been doing, for this whole time? And yeah, I mean, and you see more of life and you get to a different position in life. I mean, yeah, when I'm angry delivery guy, who has nothing to lose whatsoever, I'm going to say different stuff than I when now if I tell people to do something, they might just do it. Like 30 guys might, like I have thousands and thousands of people paying attention to what I say. So like I have to be more of a grown up. I can't just run my mouth, and I have to be more responsible for what other men do and how they take my words. I mean, you can't control what people take away from your work. That's not, you really can't do that, but you can be careful about what you put out there, and make sure that you're not just saying things to get attention, and that you're saying things that you think are true. And that's where I really feel like I've done a good job with over the years, is that like I've never gone so far down a rabbit hole that I was saying a lot of stuff that I didn't believe was true at the time. And also I've done just a good enough job. I came pretty close to painting myself into a couple corners a couple times. But I think had enough foresight to not go way over the top and to be a little more careful. And so, I'm, as my body of work, I'm proud of what I've said as a whole. I mean, there's stuff that I would go back and be like, ooh, I wouldn't have said that. But I feel like I've tried to be as truthful as possible. I mean, people mistake authenticity with being common. Like if you're authentic, then you're like showing us the worst parts of your life and the worst parts of yourself. And I'm just not that guy. I'd rather put my best foot forward. You don't need to see if I'm having a bad day, but at the same time, I think that being authentic is really like, am I really saying what I actually believe at any given time?
I've unfollowed a few people here during the pandemic, because you get the emotional in their sweatpants COVID video where I've tested positive for COVID, and it's like, who the fuck cares? Just tough it out. Don't put up a post about it. Let's get back to seeing you swing kettlebells or something.
Yeah. And that's a struggle too. Cause like how many times do you need me to see me swing kettlebell? But, it's cause I'm not a trainer. But yeah, I mean, if you can keep putting your best foot forward and saying, and that's what people used to do, right? They like, I'm going to dress up nice because I'm going where people are, they wanted to present the best version of themselves. And, this is the opposite, like you're saying. I mean, especially with the COVID stuff and whatever, you have all these people, even celebrities, which I'm like, can't you pay someone to fix that for you? Like, I mean, if I can set up lights for my set, like you can't really get that done. Right. Like you're like a multi-millionaire. You make $10 million a picture, and you're like sitting in your like beige kitchen with your like pants on with a laptop phone. Like these people can do that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Done. And that's become a value though. Like, see, they're just like us.
Yeah. Right.
And that's kind of been the way things have gone. I was like, I want to always be putting, doing the best version of me I can. And, I'll look back at, what I've done before, and, like now I know how to do it better, or the technology's better or whatever. But, I'm sure in a few years I'll be like, well, that was some amateur bullshit, but, like, who knows? I mean, like right now I have a drone in there. I bought like 2 years ago. I've never flown it before. And I'm like, I should be shooting drone footage. Like, why am I not doing that? A learning curve thing and whatever. And hopefully this summer, I mean, I'm in Utah. I have all this natural beauty around me that instead of just all doing still pictures, I'll be doing some drone stuff and whatever. So,
I bet I bet you have a similar problem like I do, because we are men of leisure, that there's so much shit you want to learn how to do. And it's just like, I don't have time to do all this shit. I want to do everything and learn all this stuff. And it just, you run out of time.
I want to clone myself. It's like, I'm the kind of person, like I don't understand bored. unless I'm trapped somewhere,
Yeah.
like I understand bored, because I always have a million things I want to do. And the big, especially after finishing this book, because everything with the book was just like, this is like it's homework project that I have to get done. And I can't really do the next thing till I finish the book, because that's the priority.
Yeah. Right.
And now it's finished, and I'll go through days where I'm sitting at a computer. I'm like, I can do anything, and I have 7,000 ideas. And it's like, what do I do? I mean, I'd like to make music. I have programs on my computer to do that I'll spend a day or two in a zone messing around with that. I'd love to learn Adobe After Effects and, like do all kinds of video work like that. And it's just everything is a learning curve. So we'll just see. I'm pretty excited at what I'm doing right now. We're waiting for it to go through the state completely so we can start up the bank accounts and run it. But I'm starting a business with my buddy Tanner, where we're going to start a men's magazine. So
really?
I just feel like that's something that needs to exist in the world that doesn't.
Yes.
And so it's a big hole. Like all of us guys, like, from you and me and Ryan Mickler and all these people, we exist in the world. We have like a fan base, and we have like, we're pretty influential to a scale of dudes, but no one writes about us.
Yeah.
Like we like basically don't exist in print.
They don't want us to exist.
I mean, and so it's a big black hole, so that only, and then if someone writes about it, it's only for people who hate everything that we stand for.
Yeah.
So there's only negative material.
Yeah.
And so I just think that that wasn't my plan while I was writing the book. I just wanted to be a weird artist and make cool, like, art about these archetypes and whatever. And that was what my plan was. But it just kind of came to me, like all these things that I was saying, especially towards the end of the book, about creating culture and, raising up actual heroes and putting that, like if we aren't supposed to just be worshiping actors, then, who should we be looking up to? And like, instead of, every interview in a magazine being about an actor or whatever, like, who are we, like, who's doing good work that we can really focus on instead. Yeah. And so I think that's it was like, well, that seems like what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
So, I love that idea. I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's definitely something we need.
Yeah, and I toyed with making magazines before, but it's too big for one dude. That's too big of a project. Like a printed magazine, like I need a staff. Sure. But even for an online magazine, that's a lot for one guy, and then it just becomes me. So fortunately, my buddy Tanner and we're people would think we're like the most opposite in the world, because he's a Mormon with like 5 kids. And and
I heard him on your podcast.
Yeah. So he's one of the reasons I moved out here. He's a really good friend of mine. We really get each other in a way that people just don't understand, and we see the need for the same thing. And so we're gonna start this company, and well, it's already started. We're just waiting for all the administrative stuff so we can get to the creative stuff. That's gonna be our project. One of the projects I'm doing this summer. So
that's fantastic. It's we need more people talking to young men. There's when we had sports idols, I guess in the 80s, they were different. I mean, we grew up with Arnold and Hulk Hogan and these guys, and we wanted to emulate them. But do you really want to emulate LeBron James kissing China's ass, or it's like, who's out there to give these kids? Even the movies were different. It was always that, the hero's quest and Arnold and Stallone and all these guys. I think we just grew up with different idols. We had our own mythologies in the 80s, as opposed to now where they don't have any.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do, but they've been, it's been skewed to a particular ideology. Yeah, and there, it's not like good stuff still isn't being made, but I do think people have always talked about a culture war, and that's really actually what needs to happen. There needs to be an actual alternative culture to what we have available. Who's making music that isn't like sad boy music?
My parents abused me or something.
Yeah. Like, who's making music like that? Who's doing who's playing sports, who doesn't hate themselves, who's some movies that that don't hate all the values that we care about. That would be cool. So I mean, I think there's a real cultural renaissance that really has to happen with just masculinity, but just the opposite side of whatever. I hate the woke. I mean, even that's a name like woke culture. It doesn't mean anything. But I was thinking, actually yesterday, like I said, I was hanging out with a buddy of mine from Texas, and we were talking about stuff. And there's a weird thing that's about to happen where, like, I hate the word conservative too, because that does not, whatever. But people who are not on the far left spectrum are about to become the fun people, and that hasn't happened. Like, that's not the way the narrative has always been. The narrative has been that the Hollywood whatever people, the far left, they're all the fun people, and everybody else just hates fun, and they're all about rules. And what's happening now is you're seeing like all these Texas and Florida and all these kind of red states or whatever that are opening. They're now the fun places.
Yeah.
And that's where you go if you want to party. And
it's the most punk rock thing you can be right now.
Yeah. And that's very exciting. And if they can roll with it, because a lot of the whatever the right or the conservatives or whatever for a long time was all about like very stodgy kind of depressing kind of I wish the past would come back kind of stuff. But now it's like like Texas and Florida are pantsing America, like this thing that you're doing, you don't have to do it. Right. And and so like now like people are like fleeing to these places that they hated because they can party and they can go out and do things, and meanwhile you're having the people who are like the far left people who used to be like the liberals. You have them quoting government websites and reciting rules to you, and they're like the prudish like people that are like fearful and sickly and like want to stay home and do nothing and whatever. And so I think that's very exciting. And so if you get a culture that's like joyful to come out of that's in these other places that have always been like they're conservative and they don't smile and they don't dance and whatever, like Footloose or whatever. If you get to these places where like random Footloose reference, but if you get
I'll take it.
Yeah, you can get to this place where these places are where the fun people are, who are like, hey, you want to come to a barbecue? Like that. And and that really has been the case for a long time, but that's not the way the narrative was. And I think that we have an opportunity to be like, hey, we're having fun over here. I don't know what you guys are doing. So I think that if that can happen, I would really love to see the name change, because the liberal has been like this. It's been a pejorative for such a long time, but America is a liberal country. I mean, it was a liberal idea. It was liberty is the actual idea. And so if we can get to a point where we become the new liberals because we actually care about freedom, that's and like change this, flip the script on that. I think that's really exciting.
It's coming down the pipe. More people are going to stop biting their tongues, especially if they're not saying anything that's wrong. There's no more of this, trying to be good and not cause any problems. I think it's starting, like you said, you're starting to have people open up and speak their mind. And I think I still believe there's more of us than there are of them, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. I want to thank you for doing this. Fire in the Dark, fantastic book. Might be my new favorite from you.
Nice. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to shut this down. I want to talk to you real quick when we get off, and that'll be it. Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Donovan.
Thank you.